What is up, YouTube, and welcome to this Power of the Dog ending explained. Now, this was a movie I have been looking forward to because I knew it would have some stunning performances, not least from Jesse Plemons, who by now I will watch anything he is in, and it also featured Benedict Cumberbatch, who I am a huge fan of course, way back when in his Sherlock days. Now, this movie follows two brothers who own a pretty successful ranch, but are wildly different, with George, played by Plemons, wanting more than life being a rancher and spends the movie pursuing a commoner, Rose, whose husband killed himself. And then there's his brother Phil, a homophobic, toxic man who is secretly homosexual. It is based on the book of the same name by Thomas Savage and is set in Montana in the mid-1920s, a time of great change in America. And I'm really appreciating some of these Americana movies that are coming out. We had, of course, the Western that came out a few weeks ago, which was absolutely amazing on Netflix. And here we have this movie, which has a sort of whodunit style of mystery towards the end. And we will be talking about just who actually done it. Phil is stuck in his ways, but commands authority over the staff and the ranch as a whole. But his crystal empire starts to crack when George becomes a simp and is smitten by Rose, played by Kirsten Dunst, who is absolutely superb in her role here as the downtrodden woman who turns to alcohol to soothe the pain of being tortured by George's brother. The brothers and their crew arrive at an inn, and Phil makes fun of a guy called Peter, who is Rosie's son, who makes paper flowers and is accused of being a sissy. And George is almost embarrassed of his brother and goes to apologise to Rose for his brother's behaviour, and then starts to fall in love with her. And the pair eventually marry, and he brings her to the ranch and sends Peter off to boarding school, much to the dismay of Phil, who despises her, but really he hates the idea of change in the dynamic and gets to work to isolate her as he tortures her by playing the banjo as she plays the piano, or the pianola, I think they call it, and refuses to turn up on time and clean up for a fancy dinner. Now, it's clear that Phil is the most liked and respected brother, and George is in his shadow despite being nicer, well-dressed, and having a wife. Phil undermines her later by saying she's been practicing piano when she says she's too nervous to play, and he continues his campaign against her and it leads her to drink as her son Peter comes home, who also is tormented by Phil, and Phil revels in making her a drunk as Peter works on his studies and wants to be a surgeon. Now, the actor who played Peter here played the part expertly as the meek, young, naive lad who is actually scheming to take Phil out to give his mother the life she deserves. It's important to note that some cows have started to become diseased with anthrax later in the movie, and that's kind of a thing that is brewing underneath the movie, and it forms part of Peter's plan to take out his step-uncle. Phil starts to teach Peter how to make a lasso and all kinds of ranch skills, including riding a horse. Now, initially it looks like he does it simply to get under Rosie's skin, but I do think deep down he did want to pass on the skills he learnt from their mentor Bronco, who was kind of more than a mentor. And this came after an old guy said, "Did no one tell Peter to soak his jeans as they look baggy and stupid?" And while before that everyone was laughing at him, I think that Phil sort of took pity on him somewhat. This leads the pair to spend a lot of time together, much to Rosie's dismay, and they head out together and talk about what's up in the hills, and Peter learns about the diseased cows. Now, to get revenge, Rose actually sells hides that Phil was saving and was going to burn. He didn't want to sell them to the indigenous people who came to buy them at the ranch, but Rose sells them, which sends Phil into an irate rage. Now, interestingly, this is where it goes on. So, hearing about this, we have Peter trick Phil into handling a hide with a whole kind of open wound, and that's going to lead him to die. Peter, having seen Phil's porn collection, certain activities, and also the handkerchief of the Bronco, it's hinted that Bronco and Phil had more than a mentor and mentee relationship, and starts to kind of lean into that to get him to get on side. Now, he actually works on the hide, which, not knowing it's diseased, to build a lasso for your boy Peter, but the poisonous anthrax does get into his open wound and leads him to die. And, well, George learns that, well, his brother died from anthrax, but is confused as Phil would never touch a diseased cow. It's clear Peter, knowing Phil wanted the hide and how the open wound would get infected due to his schooling and the dodgy hide, this was his chance to off Phil. Peter was sad to see his mother drinking and berated by Phil, which led him to kill him. Now, it's interesting that Peter didn't use the American West style of like a duel or something or a fight. He literally used his schooling that Phil had walked away from because he was nothing like the rugged farmhands, and took him down. I loved this movie. I thought it was really, really good. Well worth a watch, although it's just ending explained, so you've clearly watched the movie already. So let me know what you think of it down below. That is it for this video. Please drop a like down below. Please do subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you soon, and goodbye.